Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk with RJ. If this is your first time listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow so you know exactly when we release brand new episodes. Also, don't forget to share with everyone you know if you like what you hear. This is the first episode of season number 2. We are in season number 2. We did it. Thank you so much for all your love and support and all your faithful listening, and I really appreciate it. I live in California myself. I live in LA, and there's been this a lot of news media going on right now about the reparations that they're talking about doing for descendants of black slaves, or even free people, freed black people who lived in the United States after like during the time of slavery. So all these individuals are going to be getting reparations essentially. And it's a very large amount. Like the numbers are fluctuating right now. They haven't gotten a consistent or solid number yet, but the numbers are being thrown around. It's like $1,000 extra a month for like 2 years, and another thing is talking about $283,000 per person. Um, another thing or another opportunity, or excuse me, another form of reparation would be housing allowance or housing grants or all these other little things that are going on. And if a person is unaware as to how economics actually work, this sounds like a great, beautiful plan. Like, oh my gosh, free money. This is cool. It's not, you got to understand, whenever the government gives you money, it's never free. There's always a way they're going to get their money back. And like Ronald Reagan said, one of the most dangerous thing and scary statements you can ever hear is, we are the government. We are here to help. Ronald Reagan said that as he was the sitting president of the United States. Now, in context, just in case anyone is unaware, I'm a black person saying this stuff. I speak to the best of my ability to be honest. I don't look at truth through the lens of race. I look at truth through the lens of fairness and truth. I don't care whether a person's black or white. The fact is, truth doesn't depend on race. Truth is truth, regardless of a person's opinion, regardless of a person's religious belief. Truth is truth. Gravity's real. Gravity's a fact. If I jump off a building and say I'm not going to fall, it doesn't matter if I think I'm not going to fall. I'm going to fall to my death because gravity is a fact independent of my own opinion. Now, I want to talk about reparations because my mother, who's my best friend, she's an activist, and she and I have talked about these things as well. And she's brought up, that the Japanese, when Pearl Harbor happened, all the Japanese in America were actually gathered up into concentration camps, and they were mistreated. I don't agree with it, although I understand it. You're at war with the country of Japan, so you can't take chances. It's likely that somebody's a sleeper. It's likely that people that are Japanese in America during that time are just sitting and waiting to attack, or they were spies. You don't know. The only way to take care of that and make sure it doesn't happen is to gather all of them and put them in a camp, which is what America did out of in a form of desperation in an attempt to protect the United States. And then she also told me, and to my knowledge, the Japanese were given reparations for being, having their houses taken from them, for being mistreated. Those individuals that experienced it were given reparations. That's fair. The individuals who had experienced that concentration camp were given reparations. That's fair. But not a single black person alive today was a slave. So to give us free money in form of reparations, it's not about helping. Like let's just be honest. This is not about helping the black community. This is about pandering. There's a big difference. Pandering never comes from a sincere place. Like, you don't buy your kids Christmas presents to get them to love you. You buy your kids Christmas presents because you love them. Period. They're not gonna be as grateful, to you as you would like them to be, but the fact is you love them and you express your love by buying these Christmas presents, by feeding them, by clothing them, by making sure they have all they need, by staying up late when they're sick. That's not pandering, that's legitimate, authentic love. You don't see these governors and these legislators out there actually going to the urban schools that have the lowest, scores in the nation. They're not going out there and saying, "How can we help you guys get better scores? How can we help you guys get better educational quality? What can we do to improve your quality of life?" How can we make your community safer? They're not doing that. Instead, they're throwing money at people. And here's the difference. In private schools, I'm not going to say in white schools, I'm talking about in private schools because white people are not the only ones that go to private schools. There are Jews that go to private schools, Latinos, they're just kids who belong to wealthy families. These individuals are going to private schools. And I can tell you, in these private schools, they teach them how to manage finances. And if it's a high-end private school, they're gonna talk to them about how to manage a bank account, how to stay out of debt, how to own a business. They teach them how to, to run companies. They teach them how to run the world. But in these urban ghetto schools, like the ones I went to, they never even talk about credit cards, except for that they're there and they're really easy to get. They never teach you how to stay out of debt and only use 30% of your credit availability. They don't teach you that the very importance of having a credit score and how important it is to be disciplined with credit cards and not to max them out. They don't teach you that in public schools like that. They teach you to get a good job so you can, or excuse me, get a good education so you can get a good job working for someone else and making them rich. They brainwash you to be a minion. The schools are very different. You got the schools for the minions and you got the schools for the bosses. And the very wealthy are the ones that make these bosses. So that's just kind of how it goes. So one of my good friends works at a leading rim and tire warehouse. It's like one of the leading tire warehouses and rim warehouses in the United States. And he told me that when the stimulus came, every one of the stimuluses when they were released to the United States, their orders went through the roof. People just started buying rims and buying all these luxury items that they really can't afford, but because they had all this extra money. You see, if you give a crackhead $1,000,000, that crackhead would probably be dead in the morning because they're gonna buy a whole lot of drugs and overdose like crazy. When you give someone something that they don't know how to use, it's like giving them a suicidal or giving them a gun to shoot themselves. If you really wanna help the black community, like you pretend you want to, you don't throw money at it. You don't throw houses at it because my race is the most divisive race out of all the races in the United States. You go and look at a Latino community, it's very, very united. The people are calm, laughing. It's peaceful over there. Yeah, you'll hear a lot of loud music, and you'll hear people partying. But like the fact is that people they don't really have problems like that. They're not really breaking into each other's houses like that. If you leave some out in your lawn, yeah, it's likely you'll get it stolen. But the fact is, people aren't like breaking in your houses like they do in black communities. And I know because I've lived in a black community my whole life. We are tearing each other down. We are in this is the norm, and it's embarrassing, it's sad. The norm is that we are hurting each other. We are in such high competitiveness against each other that we're destroying each other. You don't see Latinos breaking into black-owned businesses and robbing them. No, you see other blacks breaking into black-owned businesses and robbing them. We're robbing each other. We're tearing each other down. If we really wanted to, we can stop crime in our neighborhoods by banding together and running out all the riffraff that are making our homes unsafe. But we don't do that. We don't rejoice when we see another person in our community who's made it, who's wealthy. We get mad and go, "Oh, that dude, he's or a sellout, and he thinks he's better than us." Whenever black celebrities make it, and black rappers or whatever, whenever they make it, they leave everybody else behind. They don't do anything to invest in their communities unless they're getting something out of it. It's rare. Like the Game is one of the very few rappers in hip hop that actually goes back to his community and gives back. I got a lot of respect for him. I don't necessarily agree with the lyrics in his music, but the fact is he's doing good with a lot of the money that he makes by giving it back to his community. Snoop Dogg as well. Snoop Dogg is often giving back to Long Beach and to different programs and investing in his community as well. But you don't see a lot of rappers doing that. You see a lot of rappers talking, and think about our music. I've actually done an episode recently about music and how music is harmful in the hip hop community because hip hop is actually greatly diminished the quality of life for the black community. It has. You don't hear guys in hip hop talking about being a loyal and honorable husband and father. You don't hear that. You hear that in Latino songs. You hear that in reggaeton. You hear that in bachata. You hear that and rancheras, you hear that in country music, you hear it all different genres of music except for hip hop. People aren't rapping about how much they love their daughter, their son, or how much they love their wife, and how no matter how many women come at them, they're faithful only to their one woman. You don't hear about that in rock and hip hop. Now, what do you hear about hip hop? Women are the B word. All you gotta do, women are just good for coochie. That's it. That's what you hear in hip hop. And then when women are rapping, you hear, "Oh yeah, get on them, girl, ride them." You know, shake that booty, twerk. You're nothing but a piece of butt. Like it's a subliminal message that they're telling you you're only good to twerk. That's it. But then they talk about get his money. Men are only good for money, and if they ain't got money, move on to the next one. But if you look at the lives of these individuals who are making these tracks, they're not practicing what they're preaching. They're telling you one thing, and then they're living the opposite. These female rappers are living honorably to their husbands. They're living good and faithful lives. They're not out there with their butt and everything. That's a character that they're putting on for entertainment purposes. But the black community, just like any other community, has an incredibly strong amount of potential. Yet rather than unite, we are so divided and we're blaming everybody else for everything we do. Look at the Asian and Jewish communities. Those individuals are very united, and you don't have crime in the Asian and Jewish communities like you do in the dominantly black communities. Why is that? Because if you go into a Jewish community, it doesn't matter what race you are. If you go into a Jewish community and you start causing problems, they're going to band together and get the city to get you out. They know how to band together. They know how to look out for their interests. And don't say that they're racist because I've seen many black families living in the same communities with Jews and they have great communication. They have a great bond. It's not about race. It's about whether or not you're bringing down the value of the neighborhood, whether or not you're bringing down the level of safety in the neighborhood, because everybody has the right to have safety for their children, for their families. You don't see bars on the windows in Jewish and Asian neighborhoods. In the Indian neighborhoods, like Punjabi Hindi, you don't see bars on their windows either. In the suburban neighborhoods, you don't see bars on their windows. You only see bars on the windows in the hood. That's it. And now we're trying to push we've been pushing for reparations for so long, but one of the biggest things that I have about that is that reparations should have been gone like should be given to those who actually suffered slavery. But they're all dead. It's past. You know, it should have happened. It didn't, unfortunately. But if they were to give a bunch of money to members of the black community, a lot of us are just gonna blow that money and end up in much more debt and hardship than before. We're gonna end up with houses that we can't afford because we didn't manage our finances right, because they don't teach you how to manage your finances in public schools. Yes, they have a class called economics, but economics doesn't talk about everything that they're supposed to. Back in when I was in school, we had checkbooks. You know, only business owners and people who might be a little like middle age, like in 30s or something like that, they'll know about checks. But the fact is that you get a checkbook and you know how to balance it. Every time you write a check, you keep a note of what you the amount you just took out, so that you don't put your account in the negative. So you know how much is left in your account, because sometimes it takes a couple of days for checks to clear and actually be processed from your account. But the fact is that I think, in my opinion, if they were to really be sincere about giving reparations to the black community, it should be in the form of improving the black community and improving education, going into the schools so that these kids can get a better quality of education, so that they can have updated books and technology to help them achieve the highest level of education. Because all that money is being spent in the higher end schools. If they really want to give reparations, that's what they should do. Put it into the communities, not the individuals. There's a language that money speaks, if you will. Like it's really a language. If you don't speak money, you're gonna end up blowing it. There are people that came to this country with nothing in their pocket. They worked hard and made like $100 and turned that $100 into 1,000, turn that 1,000 into a 10,000, turn that 10,000 into 1,000,000, because they knew how to speak the language of money. They knew how to hustle, and they were also part of a community. I think it's unfair. Reparations, even though, like me personally, I would be the beneficiary, I would be the person who benefits from that. It's not fair for any white person who was a descendant of a slave. Yes, I said that and you heard that right. There actually were there were lots of white slaves as well. They don't talk about that though. You don't hear about that in public schools because it's not part of the narrative that black people have. Every time you hear the word slave, you automatically think black person or African slave. African slave, oh, slaves, African. No, blacks didn't have a monopoly on slavery. In fact, over a million European Christians were enslaved by Muslims in North Africa between 1530 and 1780. Those are whites. Whites were enslaved. Also, the Persians, who were darker skinned, people can call them black, but they're darker skinned. They enslaved the Greeks, the white people. On many occasions, whites were enslaved. The English also enslaved the Scottish and the Irish. They were enslaved largely. Like that movie Braveheart is based on, is based on a lot of true events. The Brits had enslaved other white people too. So blacks were not the only ones who were enslaved. In fact, the Jews and my mother and I had this conversation. She was a firm believer that no one has had it worse than black slaves. And I firmly and vehemently disagree with that. Jews are the ones who have had it the worst. I think let's see, I think there were like 2 million Africans who died during slavery. I think it's about 2 million, and a large number of those died at sea. And it's extremely unfortunate that, it's a horrible way to go, being chained in the bottom of a ship and, given food just enough to keep you alive and making a very grueling journey over here that was a couple of months long, and then sometimes just dying at sea and drowning, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're chained. That's a horrible way to go. But that really was the worst of it, like, yes, there are women who were, physically assaulted by their masters and forcefully impregnated, and, there were people who were beaten, burnt to death, like, that's and there are also families that were separated. There were women who were giving birth in slavery, and then the master would sell their child. They were treated like cattle. But the movies you see the movies you see where black slaves were just owned by these very, very poor people, that's BS. That's not how it was. Slaves were very expensive back then. So the more wealthy slave owners and the like middle class slave owners were the ones that owned slaves. Poor people didn't own slaves unless they were gifted to them. And very, 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 very few occasions a very poor person would have a slave. It was most likely a birthday present or something like that. Because, like I said, slaves were like $600 back then, and that's a lot of money in that time. So, they didn't beat their slaves for no reason just because they were bored. They were treated like cattle, and cattle's expensive, and you need cattle to work, so you don't break your cattle. You treat your cattle with firmness, and you take care of them to make sure they have what they need to do the job you need them to do. So when they were disobedient, they got beat. And please don't take my tone to be like I don't care about this. I'm just calling out facts. They were not beat like you see on TV. It did happen, but it was not the common tone of slaves. They were fed every day, and they may have not have been given these gourmet nutritional meals, but they were fed because you need your cattle to work. That's how the slave owners looked at them, as cattle, including black slave owners. The black slave owners looked at them just the same way. The black slave owners did not look at these slaves as, "Oh, those are my brothers and sisters in chains." No, they looked at them as cattle. That was an enterprise. That's how things were. They believed they had a right to them, their property. They were slaves, and they fed them every day. The Jews, in contrast, over 6 million Jews were exterminated, an entire genocide. They were trying to, like, these people had lives, they had successes, they had businesses that they owned. The slaves here didn't have businesses. And back then in Africa, because the only reason slaves were here was dominant tribes in Africa went to go get those weaker tribes and capture them and enslave them and bring them to be sold to the Europeans, to the Spanish, and to the Portuguese. And like I said on many other episodes, the um the white-faced settlers were not just going into Africa and kidnapping people. They were getting exchanges. Just like the movie The Woman King. That was just a lie. That tribe that Viola Davis's character played for, they were actually a notorious slave tribe. They would capture weaker tribes and enslave them and sell them to the Portuguese, Spanish, and the British, the Europeans. That's how slaves were traded. We were capturing our ancestors were capturing their own people and enslaving them to make money. It was a massive lucrative business and they didn't care because they were benefiting from it. That's how it was. White people were slaves, black people were slaves, Latinos were slaves, Mexicans specifically because they were the first slaves on this continent other than Native Americans, but they knew the land better and they were able to escape. Black people couldn't. They'd never been here before, so they got those Africans and they enslaved them. But the Jews, they had businesses, they had families, and their families were just getting butchered and murdered. They were rarely fed. They were being starved to death. Some people died even after being rescued because their bodies were so malnourished. They had rats and mice eating at their feet as they laid and tried to sleep. They had birds just coming over there and eating them as they're trying to sleep. They rotted, they had lice, they had ticks, they had all kinds of things with no medical attention. They were never taken care of because they were not seen as cattle. These people were starved, no water, and they were forced to work long hours. The Africans didn't have to endure that in slavery. They were gassed. Like the whole purpose of the Holocaust was to kill every Jew. The whole purpose of slavery was not to kill the Africans. It was to make the Africans work and make the master money. No one has had it worse in the history of the world than the Jews. They are literally in like on if you look at a map and look at Israel and then look at every side of Israel, you are literally seeing every like the enemies of Israel surround them. They go outside and they get shot at. There's wars still happening amongst them. The Palestinians and Jews have been fighting for over 2,000 years. Muslims and Jews are they're very antagonistic toward each other in that part of the world. Over here, there's a little bit more peace because it's more civil and they don't have to worry about the gunfire back and forth. But nonetheless, they're very much at war still. You just don't see it because they want black people to go, you guys are slaves. Remember, don't forget, you guys are slaves. When's the last time you've seen a Holocaust movie? I'll wait. It's been a very long time since they released one, right? When's the last time they released a black slave movie? Oh yeah, there's a movie about Will Smith called Emancipation. And then 12 Years a Slave, not right before that. They keep releasing slave movies, and it seems like the reason why they keep releasing slave movies is because they want you to remember their narrative, which is white people enslaved blacks. They enslaved you. They owe you. That's what they want you to believe when in fact, again, there were almost as many black slave owners as there were white slave owners. We were enslaved, yes, but so was everyone else. Do you see the white community demanding reparations for the times that the Europeans enslaved them? Do you see the white people that were slaves in America demanding reparations? No. Do you see Latinos demanding reparations for the times they were enslaved? No. Do you see the Native Americans demanding reparations for the times they were enslaved? No. They just want their land back. They want the land that they feel is rightfully theirs. In my opinion, when I talk to Native Americans, I can empathize that they feel that way. And my argument is, well, your ancestors were doing the exact same thing that the American settlers did to you. Your ancestors were taking away the land of other tribes and they settled in those places. Your ancestors didn't settle in these places peacefully and just fill them and always inhabit them. No. There were other tribes that were there and you guys fought and had wars and then you took their land and you took their place because you wanted the best land to survive. It was the best chance of survival there. You took their land, you survived, you go on and you breeded them out or you murdered or your ancestors murdered them. Well, guess what? The American settlers did it to you too. So it's just as much their land as it is your land. So it's just reality. So if you look at true facts, if you go look in real history, you will start seeing that history really isn't what you think it is or what you've been told. Giving reparations is not fair to white people because they don't benefit from it. The black community is the only one that's going to benefit from this. How would you feel if the roles are twisted? You may be a little more biased and be like, well, I'm finally getting what's due to me. They owe me. That mentality is why you will never be wealthy. No wealthy person has ever thought, oh, they owe me before they became wealthy. You don't think about people owing you unless you've done a job and you expect to get paid because that's the agreement. The Jews aren't out there claiming that America owes them. The Jews were not demanding reparations for the Holocaust. And look at the Jewish community run the music industry, the media industry. They run all these different industries, hospitals, clinical psychology. Like they are the most successful people in America, but they're behind the scenes. I live in LA, and the most beautiful communities are Jewish communities. These individuals know how to band together and they know how to help each other. And if you would look at that example, not once did they ever ask anyone, they never asked the government for help. They went out and did it themselves together. Reparations is just another handout from the government. Every handout the government has ever extended to the black community has only hurt us. The welfare program hurts you because it's a permanent program that you can stay on as long as you want and you never get out of debt. You never get out of poverty. You stay in poverty. It's like I'm going to drink dirty water, but I'm still drinking water. As long as I got water, I'm okay. I'm drinking this dirty water. Well, guess what? Did you know that there's clean water available too? Why are you going to continue to keep drinking dirty water when you can be drinking clean water? That's the whole point. If the roles were reversed, if the government were to come out and say, "All right, black people, we are going to give a grant. We're going to give a beautiful stimulus to the white community for the next 3 years. It's going to be $3,000, and you guys are going to pay the bill." We would, for the first time, blacks would get together and be like, "Hold up, we're not paying that. How come we don't get any of that? That's not fair. Why do they get all that money and we don't get any of it? That's not fair. You're not supposed to be seeing things through race. You're supposed to be seeing things through fairness, through equality, justice." Well, that's exactly what reparations is doing. Not one of us have ever been slaves. But I'll tell you a secret. Many of the members of our community, the black community, are still slaves mentally because they still blame the white man for everything. Yes, the American government put crack in our neighborhoods. You're absolutely right. If you are aware of that, you're absolutely right. That is a fact. Members of the CIA actually put crack in our communities. They gave it to known drug dealers, but they never put a gun to their heads. They never told those drug dealers, "You better sell this or we're going to kill you." No. They said, "Hey, this is a stronger drug. You want to compete against your competitors? Use this." And they gave it to them. They showed them how to make it. And then those black drug dealers sold it to their own people. So who's to blame? Is the government at fault for giving it to us? Or are we at fault for those drug dealers giving it to their own people? That's a real important question because we keep blaming the white man for everything. We blame, like, we just keep hearing, we keep this mentality of victimization where we're blaming everybody else and not taking responsibility for what we do ourselves. So common, we buy these really expensive shoes that we're going to walk on the ground, or with which we're going to walk on the ground. We buy a very expensive car, yet we live in a low income apartment. "Oh, well, we're living in low income apartments because we can't afford anything else." Well, maybe we can't afford anything else because we keep blowing our money on stuff that doesn't matter. I'm telling you, wealthy people, the first thing they buy is not a beautiful car. The first thing they buy is a home because real estate is far more appreciating in value, which means it increases in value substantially more than a car does. Cars rarely ever appreciate in value unless it's a collector's item. So most of our debt is because of us. Like, well, I go to this company and I work and they pay these other people more than me. Why are you still in that company? You're to blame. You're in that company. You chose to work for that company. No one put a gun to your head and said you better work for this company or else. If you don't feel you're being treated well, move companies. Go find somewhere that's going to value you. Maybe you're not worth as much as you think you are. Maybe you're worth far more than you believe you are. It's just reality of your own your own techniques, your own skills, your own knowledge. But it's completely unfair to allow the government to hand you money that an entire race of people have to fund. That's gonna come out of somewhere. That 5 something billion, I think it's like 5 point something $1 billion worth of reparations is going to the pockets of black people. That's going to happen, like, it's going to hurt, elsewhere. It's either gonna be taxed in the gas prices, it's gonna be taxed in the bread or other things, but it's most likely gonna, like, I would not be surprised by this because, again, the government loves to pander. They love pandering. I would not be surprised if after they give that amount of reparations, they start taxing the things that blacks are most interested in, and we don't realize that because it's a subtle tax. Like, they start taxing, like, sweet potatoes, catfish, chicken, watermelon, Kool-Aid. Like, they start adding taxes on little things like that, but it won't be those specific things. It will be the category. Poultry. Poultry is gonna be have an extra tax. Oh, because poultry is getting, more rare. It's getting harder to bring these birds up, so we're gonna add a little tax on it. They're gonna tax it's likely that they're going to tax the things that black people typically tend to like the most, and we're gonna end up paying for those reparations ourselves. So if you start getting an extra $1,000 a month, what are you gonna do? Probably get your nails done more often, probably get your hair done more often, probably blowing on a nice TV. That's your typical average person. Buy something that's gonna spoil yourself. But a business-minded individual will take that $1,000 and make sure that they pay off debt that they owe. That's extra income that you can use to getting out of debt. Because if you pay off your cards and completely get out of debt and pay off your bills and get out of debt, you'll have more of your paycheck that belongs to you. But if you rely on that $1,000 a month, if you rely on that to survive, you're not managing your finances well. Because what's likely going to end up happening is when they stop those reparations and say, okay, they're paying in full, we're good. What are you going to do now? Now you're living $1,000 out of your budget. You could take that $1,000 and you can start investing it so you can save up for a business. Do you know how to cook very well? Why don't you start working in like going into business for yourself? I've seen during the COVID pandemic, I've seen Latinos start cooking tamales and tacos and all kinds of stuff and making agua fresa, which is like, horchata or jamaica. They make these different types of cold beverages, and they would drive their own car, like a little station wagon or an SUV or even like a little sedan. They would drive it around to construction sites, and they would go up to those individuals and sell them. I saw this with my own eyes. They would sell them food out of their trunk and make good money doing it. And with that money, they continue to do it until they can afford to buy their own food truck. And then they would buy their own food truck and then start going out and doing the same thing. And then once they started making more money, they were able to open up a restaurant. That's a money-minded entrepreneurial person. They weren't waiting for a handout from the government. They weren't blaming anybody else for their failures and success. They took responsibility on themselves and they rose up and met the challenge. They said, "You know what? The only person that's gonna get me out of debt is me." They took responsibility and they started working hard. So once and for all those black people out there in my community, all those who think that the reason why we are poor is because of the white man, you're sadly misled. The only reason we are poor is because of how we spend our money. It's time we take responsibility for our own finances. I am so sick and tired of seeing all black communities or dominantly black communities run down, houses look like crap. The crime rate is out like it's astronomical. People's houses getting broken into, bars on every window. I'm tired of seeing that. I want to see our neighborhoods look beautiful. I want to see our kids out there playing and having fun out in the streets without worrying about a drive-by shooting. I want to see more fathers in our families taking care of our babies, even if you and the mother did not work out. At least you're still there. I want to see more women allowing those fathers that are good fathers to be there for those babies instead of using those kids as a weapon because it didn't work out with you and him. I want to see more women using child support to support the child rather than supporting your lazy lifestyle. Just because you're a parent, you're a single parent does not mean you can't work. You should not live off of child support. That child support is for the child. You should be getting money and contributing to that child's future as well. Because if you also work, even if it's a part-time job, if you worked, you can put more money in a savings account for your kid so that your child can go to school, can go to college and get a lot of money paid for, or have, be taken care of in case something happens to you, in case you die. At least they have some money to take care of you or take care of them. But so many women of all cultures are living off of child support and doing nothing. They just, I'm not gonna work. I'm getting $5,000 a month for child support. That's cool. That's all I need. Why wouldn't you work? It doesn't make like the judge is not going to give you less child support because the child support is based off of how much time the child spends with you and how much money the other party that's paying makes. That's how child support is determined. It's not determined on how much you're working. That's money that you could be putting as well. Why is the father the only one that has to, if you guys aren't together, why is the father the only one that has to pay child support? You could be paying child support too by working and actually, contributing more to that child if you really care about the child like you say you do. I want to see more kids in school learning. And I'm not talking about this brainwashing crap where all like the billions of genders are being shoved down the kids' throats and all this other nonsense and all this indoctrination. I'm tired of all that. Go back to real education. Society can teach them a lot of the things that deal with customs and courtesies. But the fact is, kids need to know math. Kids need to know science. Kids need to know real and honest history. Kids need to understand, in the political sciences part of school, they need to understand the reality of who each party is, what they stand for, not the biased opinion of these teachers that are out there. Well, the Republicans are for the rich and the Democrats are for the poor. No, that's a gross oversight and is a very, very, very wrong. That's what my teachers taught me in school. The Republicans are for the rich and the Democrats are for the poor. Like that's BS. It's not true. The Republicans are for the working class. Their track record shows it. They're for the working class. They want people to work and support themselves. The happiest you will ever be is when you're taking care of yourself. When other people are taking care of you, which is what a lot of government officials are pushing for. And I'm not trying to make this a political thing, but when the government is taking care of you, you are powerless. He who controls the food controls the people. If the government is feeding you, then the government can manipulate you because they tell you to do something. If you don't do it, you don't get food. And you want to eat, so you're gonna like crap. I better do what they tell me to do, otherwise I don't eat. So it seems like one party is pushing more to give you all this free stuff so that you give them all your power, and the other party is pushing for you to get off your butt and work if you can. If you're disabled and you can't work, yeah, the government's responsible to take care of you and help you out, but they're not supposed to baby you and pay all your bills for you. That kind of mentality is the reason why there's so many poor people, because they want handouts. They want these handouts from the government. The government owes me. So that's why I want to talk about this, because of the fact that California reparations for slavery are stupid. They're unfair to anyone else who has to pay that bill without getting anything for it. You just imagine that. Imagine if you had to go start paying rent for somebody else. Like the government tells you, all right, you're going to pay rent for your neighbor, or you're going to pay rent for this white person. All right, let's say you're a black person, and the government tells you you're going to start paying the rent for white people. You're like, no, I'm not. I got my own bills to pay. I'm not paying for somebody else. What kind of crap is that? And secondly, what am I getting out of it? Why am I going to sit there and pay the rent for this person? I'm not getting anything out of this. Well, that's what the government's doing to you. The government is telling white people, Latinos, and Asians, and every other taxpayer that's not black that they're going to fund luxury for us. That's not fair. Well, they weren't slaves. Again, every culture in this world has been enslaved by another culture at one point of time. This is a fact. 100% fact. When we wake up as a community, black people, when we wake up as a community and start uniting, we will become a force to reckon with. And I'm not talking about a superior force. I'm talking about a force that demands respect, that also contributes and becomes extremely successful. There was a place called Black Wall Street way before the welfare program ever came. There's a place called Black Wall Street, and it was actually doing better than the regular Wall Street. It was burned down by a certain party, and I'm not going to identify that party, but if you look up the history, you'll see it. It like look up legitimate history, you'll see that one party was responsible for burning down Black Wall Street. It was becoming extraordinarily successful. This party was also the one that founded the KKK in 1916. This party is also the party that wanted to keep slavery rather than abolish it. So, yeah, then the welfare program was created not too long after that, and it started incentivizing women to not get married, which put a lot of black men out of the house because they couldn't get married, so they didn't really have the fatherly calling as they felt. Then the crime bills started happening, and you have all these idle hands, which they say idle hands are the devil's work. So, or excuse me, idle hands are the devil's playground. So, you have all these fathers out there walking around and chilling, having fun with their boys and stuff like that, and they end up getting arrested for various things. And then there's these boys growing up with no fathers because their fathers are in jail. And guess who teaches them how to be men? The streets. And the streets have no idea what they're doing. So these boys end up getting locked up too. All this stuff was because the family unit was broken. All this stuff was because other people subdued us, our ancestors. Yes, there were racist white people that were in charge of the government that had subdued our ancestors. Yes, that happened. But that does not happen today like you think. You're being told that racism is the biggest problem in the black community. That's BS. The biggest problem, which you do not hear about on the news, is blacks killing other blacks. Is blacks robbing black-owned businesses? Is blacks assaulting other blacks? Is blacks running up to people in broad daylight and just robbing people as they're at the gas station? This is happening in Los Angeles. It's happening in Beverly Hills. People are going to gas stations and getting robbed by other black people, but they don't want to talk about black people. They won't say the race. They're like, "Oh, these two gunmen are coming up," because they don't want you to focus on the fact that these are our people. Can't you see that we are hurting our own people? And then I had an episode where I was talking about how I think the Little Mermaid being cast as a black girl is really stupid. I thought that was really bad. And I had a lot of people jump on and they were talking about it, and And one of the most common arguments and response to it is like, "Oh, she's a fictional character, and it's not a big deal. Why are you upset about a fictional character?" Well, if the Hulk if they were to do another Avengers movie and the Hulk was, in that movie, but instead of being green, he was pink, people were like, "What the heck, dude? The Hulk is green, man. The Hulk is not pink." And they're not gonna. The movie will most likely flop just because the Hulk is pink. Because typically, unless the comic book did it, typically the Hulk is a fictional character who is green. Ariel was a fictional character who was drawn white. If race doesn't matter, why do they need to change it? If it's not a big deal, why do they need to change the race of this girl? If they want to make black mermaids, they could have reintroduced a new mermaid who was black and called her, whatever her name is. They don't need to recast a black actor in a white character's role. This is a fictional character that was drawn white, and that's okay. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. Hello? I think there's something wrong with this microphone. Well, like, you feel free to start talking if you can, if your microphone is working. I can't hear you. Um, but like, it's just I was talking to people about this subject, and I was thinking, like, if they made a black character, if Disney made a black character, and Disney's got lots and lots of money and resources, they could easily create brand new cartoons with black characters. They can put, the mermaid. They can call something else and have a new show or new cartoon with a black mermaid lead character. They could easily do that. But the Little Mermaid, Ariel, she was drawn as a white character. That's the character. And any actress should look like that character. The Hulk is green. The Hulk should always be green. I watched a movie called Mortal Kombat Annihilation a long time ago. And there is a character named Jade who in the video game she's black. When I saw in the movie there was like a Chinese woman that was actually playing that character, I was very mad. I was like, "Really? We like Jax is black and they made Jax black and then they made Jade a Chinese woman." It's like, dude, the character is the character. Why can't you cast somebody to fit the role of the character? Everybody else looks like the character. Goro is a four-armed monster looking dude, and they made him a four-armed monster looking guy. So it's all about the character. It's not about the race. It's about the character. They could easily have introduced black mermaids in the episode, just like when they did the live action Aladdin movie. Robin Williams is the voice of the genie, and when they recast Robin Williams, or excuse me, when they recast Will Smith to be genie in the live action Aladdin, Genie was still blue. That's why it wasn't a big deal. If they made Genie as black, it would have been like, nah. Yeah, at the end, we see him free and we see him black. But the fact is that Genie, the character himself, was blue. The entire time he's blue. He looks just like the Robin Williams Genie. When he's free, that's when it changes. But like the fact is that they did not recreate the Genie. That's what I'm saying. That's the whole point I was trying to make is people are saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Race is not a big deal. You guys are making a big deal about it." Well, if it's not a big deal, then why did they change the character? They're pandering. It's all about pandering to make money. And these reparations, these California reparations for slavery, it is only pandering to keep these people in power. They don't care about helping you because when the Democrats had the House, the Senate, the White House, they still didn't stop the level of crime. They didn't do anything that helped the black community. They really didn't do much that helped anyone. Their whole entire time, they were just focused on trying to convict Trump and trying to make Trump look horrible. Like, who cares? Why are our schools getting dumber and dumber? Why are the kids coming out dumb? These kids can't even answer who the first president of the United States is, or excuse me, was, or what happened in 9/11. They don't know basic history. A lot of these kids don't know basic math. The reading levels are substantially lower than when I was in in school. They're focusing so much on virtue signaling and all this other stuff that they're not doing anything that actually matters. They want you to focus on being divisive. And I'm telling you, these reparations, if they pass, it's gonna cause more more separation from the various communities who have to fund it. In my opinion, I think that the government should put out a vote any and every time they're going to use your tax dollars to do something. It is not fair to use the taxpayers' money to fund one race. It is not fair that we are suffering the highest gas prices our country's ever seen and the lowest educational rate. We are suffering. Everything's inflated. The housing market is just crazy right now. It's people can't sell houses because no one can afford them. Yet we're giving billions and billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine. I was never asked about my tax money going to Ukraine. Were you? Why is the government is literally telling you what you're going to do with your money? And you're like, okay, that's what we're doing because we're not united. I'm telling you, these politicians come to kiss the butts of black people, of blue collar workers. They come and kiss our butts because our voice is louder than they want you to think. Your vote matters, and they don't want you to realize how much it matters. That's why they pander to you. When's the last time you heard them pander to the Indian culture? You never see anyone putting on a sari or like some type of Indian garment like these politicians did when these stupid idiot politicians took a they put on like some African garments and they took a knee in the middle of the state or the country's capital. And I was like, you guys are freaking idiots. And a bunch of people just ate them alive, saying that actually represents one specific tribe. Do you think that all Africans have the same tribe? There's tons of different tribes out there. That's all pandering. They don't care about us. They don't know a single word in any of the dialects of the African tribes. They're just pandering. If we didn't matter, they would not pander to us because it's not a good investment. It doesn't do them any good. If we unite, if blacks unite together and blacks unite with whites and blacks unite with Latinos and Latinos unite with blacks and whites, if everyone unites together, we can hold our government accountable and tell these superintendents that are in charge of these schools that you will stop teaching our kids a bunch of overly sexualized indoctrinated teaching points that they don't need to know at 5 years old. You will stop indoctrinating our kids with ridiculous nonsense about how many billions of genders there are because you can kill their theology with a simple question. You're like, oh, there's all these different genders, right? Okay, when you go to a hospital for gender reassignment surgery, how many options do you have? Oh, there's only two options. So how are there thousands of different genders if there's only two options of gender reassignment surgery? And that is how you drop the mic on that conversation. If we unite, we can kick all these government officials out that do nothing but sit on their butts and take money. When COVID happened, they were still at work. They were still at work. They weren't zooming. They were going out to work and making money and getting that pension and making all kinds of money. But a lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people couldn't pay the medical bills to take care of their babies. A lot of people couldn't pay their bills and put food on the table because the government wasn't doing anything. They shut down the government. In my opinion, if the government shuts down, they shouldn't get paid either. That's what I think. I think the government should ask the people, we would like to do this with your tax dollars. We would like to fund or we would like to help make a donation to Ukraine or to another country. We think this is in the best interest of this and we'd like your vote. That's how the government should ask us because they're supposed to be our voice. They're supposed to be the ones who represent us. Yet I'm guaranteeing you that the majority of America does not want billions of dollars on repeated. Like, where's this money going? Americans do not want billions of their tax dollars going to Ukraine. Americans want that money here. I live in LA. My gosh, there's so many freaking potholes in these roads. That money could easily feel like, how many of you guys have messed up your rims or messed up your tires or messed up your car because of a pothole? Because these roads are neglected. The government doesn't care about them, but look at the roads around the Capitol. Look at those streets right around the Capitol buildings where the governors and all these people work. Oh my gosh, those roads are smooth and beautiful. The courtrooms and courthouses, they're beautiful because they're making money. Those are always high priority. You look in the Jewish neighborhoods, in the Asian neighborhoods, I don't see any potholes there. Those roads are smooth. Go to the hood, black majority neighborhoods, Latino majority neighborhoods. You got to drive the speed limit or slower because if you don't, you're going to hit a pothole and your beautiful rims are just going to have a beautiful dent right in there. And the reason why they're able to get away with this is because we are so divided amongst ourselves and too busy blaming the white man rather than saying the white man doesn't control my destiny. And when I see the white when I say the white man, I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about the people, this illusion of the white government who's literally going out of their way to oppress black people. That's the person I mean when I say the white man. That's not happening like you think. Do I believe in an elite organization that's behind the scenes pulling the strings? Absolutely. There's so much evidence of it. And in fact, Hollywood has been talking about it a lot. And they're trying to keep it quiet. They're like, whoa, 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 don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. No, we're not supposed to talk about that. They're being a little more blunt about it now. These people that are pulling the strings behind the scenes. And we are going to continue to be some of the most impoverished people, the black community. We are going to continue to be some of the most impoverished members of this country as long as we are pointing the finger at other people for our misery. If you want to get out of debt, find a way to get out of debt. Sit down, manage your budget, look at what you can live without. If you have multiple cards, sit down and pay one card off at a time. Get out of debt so you can have more of your money going to you. Luxury is not about how what kind of Coach purse or how much you get your nails. I know you want these luxury things. That's nice. But you can build yourself up to be able to afford those things comfortably. If you're living in debt because if you have these things, they're a burden. They're poor investments. Don't waste your money on things that don't make you money.
If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, and so many more places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, it's totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
It's all about improving our community. It's all about improving who we are and improving each other. That's what this is all about. That's the whole aim that I'm going for. What's up, Reggie? Welcome to the show, man. Long time no talk.
I was about to say, what's good, man?
It's living the dream, brother. And yourself?
No complaints, really.
Well, welcome again to the show, man.
Good conversation, man. I applaud you for having the courage to, speak on it and do so in a constructive way.
Thank you.
To keep it funky, I kind of didn't agree with the Hulk situation and the mermaid thing and a couple examples that you made in there, but I don't even really want to get into all of that. It's a waste of our time. It's not like I'm like screw Ross. It's not that much energy into it. I didn't see it being apples to apples necessarily. But anyway, it's funny, you mentioned the whole thing with the gender stuff, and I was watching this. I watched a quick clip on some rapper. I think his name is Smino. I've never even heard of him, but it's one of the accounts that I and a website that I use a lot for certain purposes. And I didn't really even pay too much attention to what the guy was saying in the clip because I don't. It's not an artist that I really rock with. Like few words into his whatever he was talking about, I could tell it wasn't he wasn't for me. But I went down in the comments and somebody drew brought it to my attention. The dude was had a scrunchie on his wrist
Mm.
while he was talking. You know what a scrunchie is, right?
Yeah.
And he had longer hair, but it wasn't braided up or anything. It was kind of like parted down the middle and just kind of freely hanging around his head. I'm like, whatever, whatever. But I think he may have had some women's shades on or something. So I went back and I paid attention. I'm like, damn, sure enough, this dude has a scrunchie on. And all I did was comment and say, I don't know what's going on with some of the kind of I don't know if it's gender fluid or I don't know what's going on with kind of these some of the celebrities kind of being on this unisex type appearance, and then even vocally it gets a little weird at times. I said, but just for me, I don't know how difficult it would be if my stylist came and brought me a scrunchie that I would be like, nah, we not doing that today. And that's all I really said. And I get some people, I get this cat that comes in comments and talking about I'm apparently not secure with my identity or something, and then came back and said keep being toxic or something, and I'm like, I didn't even disrespect this man. I just said I didn't know that's where we were, that we don't have enough of our own accessories. Then now men have to go like digging in their sisters or their mothers, but belongings and start adopting some of their stuff. I said, but that's the world that we apparently are in now. You got rappers wearing dresses for different skirts for different statements, and I was like, whatever. I'm like, we obviously have some different opinions. We probably come from some different eras and whatnot. I said, but one thing about it, I don't know how I'm toxic or how I'm being toxic. Like I said, I didn't disrespect this man or call him out his name or attack him personally or whatever. I just was making note of of something that's happening out here. But whatever. So I don't know, man. That just kind of I don't know if you've seen some of these different artists like that I was talking about that
Oh yeah.
and like I said, I know I'm older, man, but I'm not really hardcore with the whole you gotta be this and you gotta be that. But again, I'm just like you should be able to comment on certain things, and especially if you do so in a respectful manner.
Yes. I agree 100%. That's what the whole purpose of this show. That's what like I speak my mind, I speak it, as freely as possible, and I welcome, opposing and opposite opinions. That was redundant, opposing and opposite. I welcome I welcome other opinions because the important thing about civility is discussions, having mutual discussions, having mutual dialogue with other people who in exchanging ideas, because I don't know everything. As I always say, I do not know everything. I do my absolute best to know as much as I can. I do my research and I formulate my own opinions based off of the research that I do. But people like some guys just don't want a scrunchie. Like for example, like I might be the fan of one team and then somebody else like say like for me, I'm from Sacramento, California. I live in LA, but I'm Sacramento, California, born and raised. And I'm a Kings fan, so I will never wear a Lakers jersey. That's like one of our rivals. Well, we're not really much of a rival now because my team hasn't really we don't really do that well in basketball. But the
It's
fact
been a
is,
drought there, bro.
yeah, but you know what I mean? The fact is that I can go to a Laker game and wear my jersey. People laugh at me, but hey, this is me. I'm not gonna wear a Laker jersey. You feel me? And the fact is that That's okay. And that's the thing that a lot of people are not doing right now. Now a lot of people are like, "Oh, you don't wanna put on eyeshadow?" Like, "No, that's not something I do." "Oh, you're homophobic." How am I homophobic, bro? Like, I just not something for me. Has nothing against your community or who you love or who you like. It's just not for me. I'm confident in who I am. That's why I don't do that because that's not me. I will not put on a dress. The only type of dress I would put on would be a kilt because I'm my ancestry is also Irish. I'm Black, Irish, German, and Native American. So wearing a kilt, in homage to my ancestry, in Ireland or in a ceremony, based off of Ireland, or Irish culture, it would be appropriate, but I'm not going to wear a dress or other type of skirt. That's just not me. That's not what I do. And I'm sure that I would probably feel weird wearing a kilt just because I've never worn a kilt. But
A little too much freedom.
yeah. I mean, it might who knows, man. It might feel great having the boys get some air conditioning and everything. You know what I mean?
Right. No, like that's my. I was like, I went back and on like a final response to the guy and was just like, I get what you're saying, and you made some attacks on me, and and tried to call some things into question about me, but I'm like, I'm very comfortable with who I am. But again, I didn't say anything really aggressive. I could be super disrespectful to some of the guys who speak out on this stuff with much more sharper words and whatnot. I
Mhm.
just said, I've been watching what's going on for years now, and now I'm not a fan of it. And then I'm just like, and, it's a instant. Let me keep it moving because I would, somebody, a man sitting here with a scrunchie just is just it's kind of off putting for me. I'm not really much, and it's because, like you said, if I saw a man in a kilt, I'm not dumb enough to say, look at this dude in a dress or a skirt. I'm gonna give him some leniency and put two and two together and think that he maybe is representative of his culture or whatnot. I get that. But some of the stuff that I've seen, um, guys in dresses and I mean some of the rappers in dresses and skirts, I'm like, I have to question now why you're doing this, or where you are with your own identity and what's going on between your, especially like a Kid Cudi. I've seen him do a couple of things, and then I've heard him speak on some things, and I was like, you sound a little broken to me in a couple areas of life that I don't know. I'm not with it.
Yeah.
And I don't. But again, I don't personally dislike Kid Cudi. I wouldn't attack him in any kind of way. But like I said, when I'm listening to him explain, like, you didn't have to really explain it, to be honest. And maybe it would have been less something that I noticed less if the explanation did come with it. But then when I see the visual and then I hear the pain kind of in the voice, and then I hear the confusion in what was said, then I kind of do formulate some kind of opinion. But again, I just keep it moving. Uh, whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think a lot of Hollywood is actually emasculating black men. Like I've seen this. Like we're seeing this more, especially with hip hop. But a lot of black men are being emasculated, and men in general are starting to be made toxic. Like it's becoming, or excuse me, it's already been, and it's becoming worse as being masculine is toxic. Like, oh my gosh, being a man is toxic. You're so toxic, toxic masculinity. Yet we're seeing more women also becoming more masculine, but it's just women being identified as being strong. It's not it's not being, looked at fairly. It's not being looked at as a masculine man is perfectly fine, but men can also be toxic by being overbearing, like controlling, um, to the point where women listen to man, and like that's toxic, of course. And the whole term mansplaining, I've always taken offense to that term, like, oh, you're mansplaining, because women do the same thing. Women splain as well. Like that's not a exclusively, characteristic action that men only do. Women do it often. Especially in
Yeah,
relationships, women will speak to men a certain way, and men will speak to women a certain way. Women splain and men mansplain. It happens, but it just needs to be, in my opinion. I think masculinity is a beautiful thing, and femininity is a beautiful thing. I think, and this is just my personal opinion. I think all these genders, because this community, the alphabet community, and I call them alphabet community just because I hate saying all the letters. I'm like, all right,
yeah, I'm with you. I'm
yeah.
with
So
you.
the
I'm with
alphabet community, they were originally people like, I don't want labels. I don't want labels. There was a big movement like, we don't want labels. Just we are who we are. And now there are billions of different labels. Now they're like, I'm gender fluid. Like it's starting to sound like car parts. I'm transgender fluid. Like it, I don't know. It's getting crazy. But if a person wants to be a male who's attracted to other males, beautiful. If you want to be a female who's attracted to other females, beautiful. If you want to be a male or female who's attracted to both genders, cool. That's be who you are. But telling me that I have to use these ridiculous pronouns to identify you, it's stupid. In my opinion, I think it is a stupid thing to use fabricated pronouns to describe a person. Like, I
you.
can't
Yeah,
walk around and say, my name is RJ and my pronouns are super sexy majesty. You have to call me super sexy majesty every time you talk to me or address me. Like, that's ridiculous.
yeah. I caught an interview one time. I think it may be even been on the Breakfast Club, and I think the singer Tank was in that particular discussion.
Hmm.
And then there was an individual from that community, and I'm gonna say he was trying to explain his pronouns and how he wanted to be addressed and all of this stuff. I mean, he could say it quickly and concisely or whatever, but it sound confusing as hell.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not going down this road with you because if I meet 10 other people like you, like now I gotta know what I'm just like, how confused am I gonna sit here, man? I get it, I get it. But
Yeah.
um
And there's tons of TikToks out there right now with members of this very community who are confused themselves. Like they use these pronouns, they're trying to communicate with these people, refer to them, and then they're like, they're confused too because the pronouns are becoming so ridiculous, they're not making sense. And like they're creating new pronouns, and then they create other pronouns, and then create other pronouns. And I'm just like, dude, you guys have just gotten so freaking ridiculous with this stuff. Just like
the,
people are, getting, in my opinion, being ridiculous with demanding reparations now. Like, we're not slaves. We've never been slaves. Our ancestors have. They should have had the reparations, not us. We should not benefit from that because they were the slaves, not us. And people are demanding, it's getting ridiculous because of all these different the virtue signaling and all these different political agendas. It's just, if you're gay, great for you. I love you. God bless you. Enjoy your life. If you're bisexual, great for you. I love you. Enjoy your life. God bless you, etc. But now they're creating all this other stuff, and it's making harder for people to communicate, and we can't have a civil conversation. Like, because,
yeah,
you have to refer to me as Zim Zer Z. Like, oh my gosh, dude, that's not even a word. That's
right, right.
that's a sound effect.
Right, right. I'm a. I'll share this to the contribute to the conversation like this, and then I do got to get rolling. But I was talking about what you hit on earlier, and we kind of have a little different view on the masculinity, feminine thing. Not a completely different, but what I don't again nothing else to waste time on. But I was talking about a show earlier that I'm watching called Reasonable Doubt, and the husband that's on there. Uh, they've got him acting real weird and kind of he's kind of effeminate. I don't know if the actor I've seen him in some other stuff, and it's like did they pick him because they want him to come across as effeminate? But then it's the way that they have him.
Oh, I lost you, Reggie. Um, all right, let's see. I mean, these are definitely good points. And again, I really enjoy having people on. All right, there, you're back, Reggie. I also have somebody else waiting as well, so if go
I'll
ahead
keep
and
it moving. I'll get out of here really quickly. I was just saying he's been trying. His wife is kind of the breadwinner,
Mhm.
apparently, and she's more aggressive than him, more of a go getter, and they have him kind of like being whiny and begging her to listen to him and put him first, and it's like they really have the roles reversed. And I was just saying, in a lot of the shows that are intended for black viewers or urban audiences, whatever they want to put it under, it's like again, I just want to sit back and watch a show, but now you got to wonder what's really being, what message is really being communicated here, and why do I see so many people that look like me often portrayed in this manner,
I
and
agree.
it's kind of concerning.
I agree. As always, brother, like I always appreciate what you got to say because you always have some good points, and I really appreciate your realness. And it was good seeing you or talking with you again, brother.
You too, man. Have some good holidays, man, and maybe Fox and the other guy from the UK, man, Hill, not Hill. Um, what's the brother that Monk, maybe those guys can be the start of a new day out in Sacramento, maybe.
Hopefully, God willing. All right,
Take care,
brother.
man.
You too. And the Guru Warrior got her coming on right now. Yeah, these are some good points. Like I really enjoy having these conversations with individuals. So I always welcome you guys to feel free to reach out and join in with the conversation as well because you have opinions that I would like to hear. Even if I disagree, that's okay. The fact is we're showing people
Yeah.
and demonstrating that we can have a
Okay, just
conversation.
because, yeah, all right. My father was a Black Panther. I was the little kid who went along you know, with him to different areas, served breakfast to, the less fortunate than us. Even though we were hanging on a string ourselves, we learned, disciplines and we learned the law and things like that. So reparations, yeah. I mean, but really, it's just right now, people are demanding reparations, but not the right way. You know,
I
I
agree.
mean, cash reparations not going to do nothing. We
Yeah,
want our
especially for the
land
fact that we
back.
don't like our
All up,
people
all
largely
up.
don't know how
That's
to use money. Like, that's
well,
one of the most important things. If you give somebody who doesn't know how to use money, because 'cause we're not taught how to properly use money. We're taught money buys you stuff, and that's about it. But if you're taught like, in private schools, they teach people how to use money, how to manage money, how to make money make more money. We're not taught that in public schools, and the
not
majority
even
of
the
the
middle
black com
class
Yeah,
or the upper middle class, or so it only stays within a certain class. So, sometimes you have to take economics, but still economics is not going to help, because there's nothing about, you know, um, investing. Investing is kind of like it's like gambling unless you invest in solid things that people use every day. So it's just like, and then if you make too much money, then they come running after you.
yep,
But what I'm saying is reparations, yes, but not in the way you think. Reparations, like our land back, the houses that they stole, things like that. Um, the graves
I
for
think even
people
college
that
grants,
were,
like having
yeah,
reparation for I mean, for anyone who can actually this will force people to go back and look at their ancestry. If they can, go back and, trace their lineage back to an actual slave, then they can get a college scholarship, that the government pays for something to help them better themselves. Because money's not gonna better yourself if you don't know how to use it. So if
yes,
they
but
were to
your
give
college
reparations.
education, yes, but they don't give you very much. Trust me. I mean, my daughter had to learn Japanese and Chinese and Korean in order to get a great education. Got doctors, a couple of PhDs. My mother did the same thing. I did the same thing. It's just that we don't teach each other how to use the system and the grants that are there for us. What do you think the NAACP is?
Or
I mean,
United
there's
Negro College
other,
Fund is usually the one
yeah,
for that.
yeah,
But the
yeah, but
biggest
there's
problem,
other,
if you look at like the Indian families, Indian and other Asian families, they often live in communal houses. Like they have multiple families living in one
well,
house.
I'm West Indian, so be careful where you tread. I'm
Oh,
Jamaican, Trinidadian, and Guyanese, so tread lightly, my friend.
well,
And
as
I'm a
always,
lot older
I'm
than
real, I'm
you.
honest, and I speak my mind. So what
Good, do that.
I've noticed with Asian and Indian families, they often have multiple generations of families living in the same house. And the
Yes.
oldest child, the entire family works to put the oldest child through college. And once the oldest child graduates college and establishes their life and gets successful, then the parents become live with that child, and everybody else as a community puts each child in the college, which is why Indians happen to be some of the least poor, as well as Asians. They happen to be some of the least poor in the United States because this is their
Well,
mentality. They're communal. They're not in a rush to get out of the house.
well, this
They're preparing for the life they're going to inherit. For us, we tend to not do that.
us, you can't put me in that us. Sorry. I, um, I grew up in a family that migrated to the United States, so learned how to work systems that Black people totally ignored. And so my father was a teacher, and he taught. So believe it or not, he's probably one of the teachers that taught middle class Black people to be where they are now.
I wouldn't doubt there's a lot of people that didn't have um there's a lot of people that didn't have the luxuries and the freedoms that we have today. We take so much for granted, and honestly, I talked to somebody recently, and I really wish that every Black person alive today, especially the younger generation, I really wish that every Black person alive today could go back to the 50s and just spend a week in the 50s and see what actual oppression looks like, and see what actual racism looks like, and see what actual unity looks like amongst the Black people, because the Blacks were very united. And what happened when the Black community was united? We got voting rights. What happened when the Blacks were united? We earned the opportunity to get the same pay as other people. We got all these, like, there's so many rights and so many privileges and so many laws that were passed because we were united. The Million Man March forced a lot of stuff. When we were able to vote, that was a very, very big deal. But that would never have happened if we were as divided as we are today. We are severely divided today. That's why we're forgotten by the government. The Jews are not forgotten by the government. I guarantee you that. In the Asian community, they're not forgotten by the government. That's why when Donald Trump was calling it the COVID, the Chinese virus, people were like, "Hey, hey, hey, don't you call them that? That's racist." And they censored anyone who ever used it. Anyone who used that term got censored. So I guarantee you, the government's not forgetting about the Asian culture, and they're not forgetting about the Jewish culture because they're very united. You don't see police officers out there, beating down white people. Why? Because the white community is a lot more united than you think as well. Just about every culture out there is united, but my culture is not. But if we would be united, we can do some serious, make some serious changes. Like that's the reality. And it's so important to remember that. Changes, if we forget that unity changes the future, we're going to miss out on some great and exceptional opportunities. Unity changes the future. Riots have never once changed any laws. Riots have never, ever changed anything for the better. The only thing that riots do is make rich people richer. Because when they get you in there, they piss you off. Yeah, go in there and break into that store. Go do it. Go do it. That's a store they own. And then guess what? The insurance pays them for all that stuff that got stolen. And then they get to restructure their business and rebuild their business, and they get extra money because you stole all that stuff. What's up, Dewey? Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Mr. Ross. I appreciate this. I really do. Great
My
topic,
pleasure.
great information you're talking
Thank you.
about. You know, I agree with everything, you know, that anyone puts out there that comes out of their mouth as far as their opinion. You know, I accept that rather. But it's like this. I feel that the key and the solution to all of this and all of these issues and questions that we have and all of this stuff that we create daily, right? It's just a matter of having a true understanding of who you are. See, once you have that understanding of who you are, then your questions are answered. You don't have to force anything on anyone. You don't have to try to have someone believe in your own truth, right?
Yep.
So that foundation, right? This reparation, money is not the key to reparation. These are all parts of distractions and things to keep you going and keep you away from yourself. Because
I
if you
agree.
truly knew who you were and had an understanding of who you are, you would even be concerned with reparations, right? Because you got to understand, it's like this: the same people or the same things that are trying to give you reparations, right? Are the same ones that are. It's like this: the same ones that are giving you the problems are the same ones that are giving you your answers and the key to it. So that can't be trusted, and it shouldn't be trusted anyway,
Absolutely.
right? Because therefore, it's keeping you away from yourself. You know, see, it's like this. You made a statement that you were part Irish or something like that. I think I heard you say.
Yes. Black,
So,
Irish, German,
okay,
Native American.
yes, okay, now great. You know that, right? That's
Hmm.
been passed down in your lineage, right?
Correct.
Nothing has been in place to keep you from understanding that. Now, for most people that are in America that are from this country, right? And we must understand that this is a continent, so therefore there are countries here, but we've been taken away from that knowledge. We must get a true understanding of who we are. People that are here, see, most people that are here, we are not. This slavery stuff, people really must understand and research that slavery stuff. Make it make sense. That's all I'll say to that, right?
Hmm.
And as far as Indians and all of this stuff, again, we must make this stuff make sense. Okay? Because if we've done our research in this country, we had a 200-year war with people that were not Indian. You feel me?
Yeah.
See, what is Indian? Right? Is it part of the word indigenous that just turned into this word Indian? You know, you feel me? We really must do our research.
Yeah. It was Christopher Columbus's idiocracy when he said, "Ah, Indians," and like,
Ah,
Captain,
yes.
yeah, this is in India,
Yeah,
and they're like,
which
"Nah, I'm Sioux. I'm
you know,
Navajo. I'm Native, dude."
right. He also said they were Ethiopian, like, right? I mean, if you do your research in that Columbus expedition, that's some good information. I mean, it really is. You gotta, you know, I just feel we need to, before we can form any opinions on anybody or feel like we are this or that, we really must get an understanding of God.
I agree. And I,
You
I
know
think
that,
it's also really important too, because like it's easy for us to start believing everything somebody says just because we follow them. Like we hear them
right?
say one thing, we're like, oh, I'm a follow this person. And then everything they say, we take it to the bank. But it's always important to do your own research.
That's right.
Because if you like you're saying, to give credit to your point, if we do our research, it's less likely that someone will be able to deceive us.
That's right, exactly. Because a lot of things are put in place. There are so many things that you don't even realize are put in place to keep you from that cognitive thinking,
Yep.
from food to your entertainment to anything, right? That cognitive thinking from hormonal interference, anything from birth. We got to make this make sense. I appreciate you having me on. I love your topic. Keep going. You're strong. You know, this is what we need on wisdom, and it's love. It's great.
I
Keep
appreciate it,
going.
brother. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And to add on as well, it's this the government, like, and they keep telling us, like, people, these government officials keep telling us that they want to help us, they want to do this, yet they haven't. Think about that for a second. These individuals had control of the entire government and did nothing to help benefit us. Why now? Why do they only do this kind of stuff around election time? Or when, like, there's a lot of members of the black community that are quote unquote waking up and starting to actually do their own research because historically, blacks as a community used to vote Republican because there was a Republican Party that actually freed the slaves. And we were consistently voting Republican because we benefited from the Republicans the most. But it was back in 1964, in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, when Lyndon B. Johnson um, signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and that's when blacks started to vote Democrat. And he actually is quoted, and I've said this on a previous episode. Um, he's quoted as saying, "I will have these N words voting Democrat for the next 200 years." And from that point on, the black community has unanimously, or excuse me, not unanimously, but by vast majority, voted Democrat. And now we're to the point, like in my community, when I was growing up, I was always told Democrats are for the people. Democrats love black people. Democrats are for the people. Well, what have the Democrats done when they had Biden as president? They had the House, they had the Senate. What have they done to us for us? The crime rate got crazy. You look at the crime rate in Democratic run states, it's overwhelming. Chicago is like one of the worst. Look at these states that Democrats are sitting as the heads. Look at the poor. I mean, look at the track record. If you're like, I mean, you may be super political one side and not like the other side, but I'm asking you just take your emotions out of it and just look at the facts. If you are going to hire somebody, let's say you own your own company, you look at the resume and you're going to hire somebody to run your company. You're like, oh, I want to relax. I want my company to make money for me, and I'm looking for someone who's going to be the CEO and manage and run my company for me. You look at the resume, and the resume says failed business, failed business. The entire company was laid off. Half the population was poor. You overspent. You underproduced. Are you going to hire that person? Absolutely not. You're not going to put that kind of person to run your business. But that's what these Democratic leaders have been doing. Look at the track record. Take your emotions out of it and look at the facts. Look at every state where there is a Democrat sitting as the head. Look at how high the unemployment rate is, especially, I'm not talking about like they just got a Democrat in there. I'm talking about states that are like they're known to be democratically run, like New York, like California, like Illinois, like Detroit. Look at these states that are known to have Democratic governors. Look at how many poor people there are. Look at how many look at the crime rate that's going on there. Look at how crazy the country is becoming under this leadership. Look at how censored we are. Elon Musk bought Twitter and he started releasing the emails that showed the FBI and government officials were telling Twitter to delete various accounts. He showed the emails. This stuff is coming out. Anthony Fauci was it's found out that he was actually getting paid to push these vaccines. Interesting, especially when he first said there's no need for to get the pokey because if you get that pokey, like then the strongest immunity you can ever have is natural immunity. He said that when this thing first came out, he said it, and then all of a sudden his tune changed because his pockets got bigger. I want you guys to think about that. Take your emotions out because people are telling you what you want to hear in the government. They're telling you things that sound nice and beautiful. But how many of us have been seduced by somebody who is nice and beautiful, who told us everything we wanted to hear right before they stole everything from you or broke your heart? That's what bad people do. They whisper sweet nothings into your ear while their hands are inside your pocket. And honestly, I think it's time it's time for us as a black community to stop pointing the fingers at everybody else. One of the listeners gave a beautiful point that said, I feel that people need to forgive one another for selling their own into slavery. This happened hundreds of years before there was a USA. I agree. I agree 100%. I believe that, black slaves never would have been in America if African tribes didn't sell us there. We sold our own. We need to accept we were slaves. Our ancestors were slaves. Yes. Our ancestors were slaves. This happened. But we were not the only slaves on American soil. We were not the only slaves in the world, but we were members of that community. Yes. But we're the only ones still demanding reparations. We're the only ones still pointing the finger at other people because we're poor. We're blaming other people for what we are doing to ourselves. If we wake up, then we can change our own destiny. Think about it. When you're walking down the street and you see, and this is not meant to be racist, it's meant to be a reality check. If you are walking down a dark street and you see a group of black dudes sitting there just standing around, are you likely going to walk down that street? People can say, "Oh, if I see any dudes standing there around, I'm not going to do that." There's a different reaction. I've seen it. I've watched it. I personally have witnessed this. People tend to hold their purses a lot stronger when they walk past black people, and you can't really be mad at them because this is the kind of stuff that's happening in our communities. If you're in a black community or a dominantly black community and you see people just standing in front of a gas station, unless you're used to that kind of thing happening, you don't know what those guys are intending to do. But, like, anytime I've seen Latinos, standing around a station, they're just drinking and just chilling. They're not even bothering anybody. They're not talking to anyone. They're not doing anything. I've never seen Asians loitering at a gas station or a liquor store. I've never seen white in my opinion, I've never seen white people loitering around a liquor store. I've only seen members of my own community standing there, being very loud and very obnoxious, and then they would look and mug every person that walk in there. That's a consistent thing that I have seen. I'm not saying this is like this all across the board. I'm saying my own eyes have seen this consistently. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And even business owners will say that when people do that, it drops business for them. They don't get as much business because people are loitering outside and it gives a bad look for the company. That's why a lot of these gas stations and liquor stores say no loitering. Violators will be prosecuted. So there's a reason for that. But this is a look that we're giving to ourselves. We're in such a hurry to chase that hustle and fast dollar life that these hip hop stars are putting on and giving us the illusion to chase. These dudes are not putting on the image of being a business owner. They're putting on the image of hustling, making that money, chase that dollar, get that money, have sex with a bunch of women. This is what hip hop is pushing, and this is what a lot of members in our community are doing. Again, I've said this many times, and again, I still say it because it's important to remember. The Emancipation Proclamation has no black signatures on it. That is all white signatures. Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president, was the one who gave that bill life. He was a white man. We need to stop blaming the white man for our subjugation. We subject ourselves to our own poverty. That is not because of the government. There are tons of scholarships and tons of money and tons of assets and tons of resources available to every ethnic community, especially the black community. It's there. We just don't look for it because a lot of us don't know how to look for stuff or want to know how to look for stuff. It's too much work. There's millions of dollars in scholarships available if you go do the work. We can change our destiny. But for all you guys out there listening, if you have kids and you're not there for your kids, man, I'm telling you. I mean, every situation is different. Again, in my situation, with all my heart, I really wish I could be there for my son. But the relationship between his mother and I is it's very bad. It's a very toxic relationship. And there's just a lot of very dangerous risks of me trying to have a relationship with my son and the repercussions of that. But, it's actually been my dream, and this just is me being honest, like, it's been my dream that his mother and I would have a very strong friendship so we can raise our son together and have a very good, solid relationship so that I can teach my son to be a man and that being masculine is perfectly okay. And there's nothing wrong with being masculine, being a man. Being a man is about taking care of responsibilities, it's about being strong because I'm telling you, this new generation of scrawny, weak men, that's exactly what our enemies want. Because if you look at the Chinese military, look at the Korean military, look at the Russian military, you don't find scrawny feminine men. You see very dangerous, strong looking athletic monsters who are ready to fight and kill. That's who wins wars. Those are the people who win wars. The ones who are strong, the ones who are focused, the ones who are masculine. These feminine men don't win wars. They're not tough enough. And people can say that's not true. I've seen it. I've been to war. I'm a vet. The feminine dudes are the ones who don't want to get dirty and take care of business like it needs to be taken care of. War's not pretty. You don't fight war with politics and beauty and sexiness and honor and wind blowing through your hair. Nah, it's freaking dirty. It's ruthless. You shoot kids at times. It happens. It's not something you wake up and go, oh, I'm going to shoot a kid. No, you don't want to. But if a kid is walking towards your platoon and he's got an explosive vest on, it's either him or your people. And I'm always going to take care of my people. You see a woman who looks pregnant, she's walking up without an escort. You know her culture doesn't do that. You put a bullet in her head because you know she's got an explosive in her stomach. This happens. I've seen it. I've seen pregnant women explode. You can't have feminine, soft, scrawny little boys on the front lines in war. Men who are strong and masculine are the ones who will defend your rights to live peacefully. So if we want to continue on emasculating our men, you're only endangering your future. That's the reality. Disagree or not, it's a fact. If you want to get out of poverty, you got to stop blaming other people for your situation. You control your destiny. You can find like-minded individuals who are willing to make money with you, and you both can go out and start buying properties and investing in those properties. You can build up businesses and get yourself out of debt. You just got to think out of the box. Stop thinking that you're owed a certain amount of money or anything at all. I disagree that the government should give reparations to us. I don't, especially in the form of money. I think if they're going to give reparations, it should be in the form of bettering yourself. Like the government will fund you to go into school. You know, for anyone who's a direct descendant of a slave, you it should not be just blacks. It should be anyone who is a direct descendant of an American slave, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Native American, Asian, regardless of what it is. If you can trace that you were a slave, then if you want to go across the board, that's being more fair, but it should be in the terms of funding and education for you to achieve something, to be an astrophysicist, a doctor, something like that. Or there should be benefits like discounts, like we need more doctors, so let's put more of you into school. Let's get more doctors because we don't have a lot of black doctors. So we're going to fund you, like something that's going to help you better your life. Money's not going to do that, especially if you don't know how to use it. And I mean, I know I said a lot on this subject, but the fact is that we are the ones that are enslaving ourselves now. We really are. And it's time to free your mind. It's time to take off those chains of delusion and stop blaming everybody else for what is within our control. Anything outside your control, let it go, leave it alone, don't lose sleep over it. If you are working at a company and somebody else is getting the promotion that you deserve, leave the company. Don't stay with the company that doesn't value you. That's a bad investment. Don't give your time to someone who doesn't deserve you. It's a bad investment. Don't take your kid away from their father if the father is a good father. He may not be a good boyfriend, husband, or lover, but if he's a good father, separate everything else and use that. Let your kid be in your father's life and let or in their father's life and let their father be in your kid's life. And men, if you have kids out there and you are able to be in their lives, fight for your babies because the majority of people in prison are fatherless. Before I end, I just wanted to open up and see if there's anybody else that had anything they like to say. I definitely welcome you to see to share. Um, Especially if it's pertinent to the conversation or to the topic. Um, it's a really deep thing just because I don't believe in taking the side just because of the color of my skin. I believe that truth is truth and I want to hold on to truth. It's not fair to villainize the white race, period, because they're not full of racist people. The Million Man March has tons of white faces walking side by side with black ones. That happened. Jewish people were walking side by side with those black people in the Million Man March and in Salem and um all these Orthodox, Russian, like all kinds of ethnic cultures were coming together to fight for the equal rights and voting rights of blacks. So to villainize the white race is not fair, especially when the people telling you to do it are white. Think about that. They're pandering to keep you dependent on a nipple rather than weaning you off a nipple and getting you ready to start eating big boy and big girl food. They want you breastfeeding when you should be eating normal food. They want you in a stroller when you should be walking. They don't want you independent because they rather keep you subdued because they're threatened. Those individuals that want to subdue you are threatened by your potential. So rather than fall into that trap, rise up and treat each person as a human being, regardless of the shade or hue of their skin color. Let go of slavery because you were never a physical slave. The only thing in slavery is most likely your mind, if you still are tripping about slavery and the chains you never had to put on. I just really wanted to reiterate that. I believe in every person's potential. I believe in the potential of my culture. I believe in the potential and strength of my people. I don't believe in black supremacy. I believe in black improvement. And I support white improvement, not white supremacy. I support Mexican and Latino improvement, not Latino supremacy. We all should be our best, or excuse me, we should all be our best. We should not be fighting against each other, but uniting with each other because the white culture, Latino culture, Asian cultures, black cultures, we all have something to contribute to make this world incredible. If we get out of our own way and stop blaming everybody for everything else, we will see the most beautiful future ever. When Hurricane Katrina and all these other hurricanes and disasters happen, you see whites, blacks, Latinos, Asians, you see all cultures uniting together to go help. That's what happens when we unite for a cause. Just imagine what we can do to this country if we unite together for a cause rather than divide because of race. Wake up. The only reason you'd be a slave is because you refuse to take those chains off yourself. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. I know that you guys can be anywhere you want to be right now, but I appreciate you inviting me into your jobs, into your homes, into your cars, into your earpieces, into your hearts, and into your lives. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for those who contributed. Thank you for those who were willing to open up and talk. Please don't forget to follow me. Also, this is the first episode of my second season of my podcast, Real Talk with RJ. It's available anywhere podcasts are available. Just look up Real Talk with RJ. You can see the logo right there and the wisdom icon. Um, I record these episodes as often as I can. As I always say, like it's not always consistent. I try to do it when I have time because I have a fiance and I'm madly in love with her and she's my number one. So I always want to make sure when I'm with her, I'm spending time with her and I'm not too focused on doing other things that I can do when I'm by myself. So I can, I just don't want her to ever feel like she's second because she's not. She's my number one. That's my best friend. And Just continue to listen to the other episodes that I have on Real Talk with RJ. I have lots of really good episodes, and I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions. Feel free to ask me questions. Feel free to send me messages. I appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you so much for your love and support. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you go on any other platform. Have a great morning. Have a great day in case anyone listens to this later on. And I love every one of you guys. I'm really thankful for y'all. God bless you. This is Real Talk with RJ signing out.